Seems like we found ourselves into a offensive conversation concerning what lacked last year and why we can believe it's going to be so much better this year. Obviously, it's the same quarterbacks in play, most likely, if N'Kosi Perry wins the job. Some of the same playmakers, but obviously the concepts are going to be completely different with Mark Richt and his son out of the way and Dan Enos taking over. So, John, what are your thoughts?
Well, I heard Lonzo talking about, living in South Carolina. I've lived in Georgia for 15 years, almost 20 years now to be exact. I've done sports radio here in Atlanta for 15 years. So I covered Mark Richt almost his entirety as a head coach at the University of Georgia. He showed last year exactly who he is. And I know you guys have probably heard me on Hockman and Crowder many times, banging on Mark Richt. I mean, I took him to task literally week in and week out. He ruined 2018 the second he pulled N'Kosi Perry from center against the University of Virginia. This is a kid that had just come back from 27-7 down against Florida State. And you talk about throwing 2 picks in the first quarter and you're going to pull him against Virginia? Are you kidding me? That's who Mark Richt had always been. Mark Richt had always been a very stubborn coach and wanted to do things his way. When they were best at the University of Georgia, he got out of the way of Mike Bobo. And he let Mike Bobo call plays. He let Mike Bobo run the football. He let Mike Bobo do play-action passing. What happened?
He didn't even hire Bobo, did he? He didn't hire Bobo. They made him hire Bobo.
They forced Mike Bobo on him because it was Mark Richt offense for a while. DJ Shockley's my dude. I've known Shock for years here in Atlanta. And DJ loves Coach Richt as a person. But there were a lot of things that we were running that they were running at the University of Georgia 12 and 13 years ago. College football has changed how much in 12 or 13 years? And now you're trying to run the same boring plays, no motion. I mean, if I'm sitting in the crowd in section 105 down at Hard Rock Stadium and I know exactly what's coming, you think Brent Venables for Clemson doesn't know what's coming? It was ridiculous what they were running on offense a year ago.
He actually made a statement that if this worked for me at Florida State, it should work for me here. So it's longer than 14. He was talking about Florida State years. I'm like, you have got to be kidding. I'm telling you, I was against the hire from day one, living in Columbia, South Carolina, and watching him lose to the Gamecocks when Steve Spurrier took over. Watching him give up the conference to Missouri 2 years.
How about losing to Jim McElwain of all people? Jim McElwain was humping sharks and winning the SEC East while Georgia had the most talent. I mean, it's the most frustrating. I'm not a Georgia fan.
That's why I don't respect what Florida's doing either, because people keep talking about the ACC Coastal. The SEC East is just as weak. The East is weak. They got Georgia. That's it. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. So, I mean, that's why I'm saying I'm not impressed with what Florida did last year. Other people can be impressed. I'm not impressed.
I wrote an article for State of the U maybe about 3 weeks ago talking about quarterback and how it should be different this year. And I know a lot of people have said, oh, we got to bang on N'Kosi. He completed 50% of his passes. And go back and look at how many drops they had a year ago.
Yeah.
Look at how many times they were in 3rd and 11 because Mark Richt wanted to run the ball on an inside zone, play after play, and put them in bad situations. Dan Enos has 3 quarterbacks that are higher ranked than Miami has had high school quarterbacks in like 15 years. Dan Enos' first year at Arkansas, Brandon Allen threw for like 3,500 yards, 25 or 30 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions with 1/10 of the talent that Miami has. I look for this offense to be 35-plus points a game this year. I look for them to run for 2,500 yards and throw for over 3,000 yards, and it doesn't matter who's under center.
I mean, more importantly, John, and this is what really pissed me off last season while watching it, was you never let a quarterback get in a groove. You mentioned it. After N'Kosi Perry threw 2 picks against Virginia, you kick him out the game, and then you bring in Rozier, and then when Rozier struggles, you bring right back in Perry. There's no way a quarterback can get in a groove when every week they don't know if they're starting or if they're sitting. And maybe it's the whole mentality that Rick wanted, that you prepare to be the starter every week. But why prepare to be the starter when you're going to get kicked out of a game after 2 bad plays, or when when Lawrence Cager can't catch the ball once? I mean, against Florida State, he seemed to drop the ball 17 times in the first drive.
I think they said if he would have had 30% of the passes that they dropped, he would have been almost at 58%.
Mm-hmm. He played well last year. He played well enough last year to be the starter.
not just that though. Listen, I this is a good thing about me being on YouTube and not working for nobody because I've been able to call out Rick, and I had Kane's All Access get on me about calling him out and this and that. Listen, man, the guy was a horrible fit, a horrible coach. If I need you to be my youth pastor, then you be my youth pastor. But the problem is he put his son before the program.
Mm-hmm.
Put his son before the program. He's not as good as people made him to be, and he basically threw away 3 years of offense. You just look. It's not like we had 1 year of good offense under. We didn't have 1 year, and then Malik validated everything I have been saying. I tell you, you can go back 2 years ago. His exit game interview with who did he do that with? Who did he do that interview with when he was talking about Rick? I forgot who it was. Something Kane boys, something like that.
Yeah, Orange Bowl boys.
Orange Bowl boys. He said every single thing I said about it. He said it. He said every single thing I said about it. And like I say, you can be I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. I'm not the best person. I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. And Rick put his son. When you start putting your family ahead of your program, or anything, you're not going to succeed at. And I think that's was his failure at Miami.
I will say this though, and Mark Richt gets crapped on sometimes when I don't think it's fair. The on the field stuff, the play calling, that's all up for grabs. It's exactly who he was at Georgia. He's got Miami in 500 times better position than they were when that used car prick Al Golden got kicked out of the program. He's the worst.
Al was set up though.
No, Al
was set up.
Al's in Detroit now, so
Al is the worst human being that's ever stepped foot at the University.
But he was set up badly. He was, put it this way, if I would take Al Golden and Manny Diaz over Mark Richt and whatever other defensive coordinator he get.
The problem was you just talked about Mark Richt kept his family. Al Golden had his little buddy Mark D'Onofrio and wouldn't fire him.
His brother-in-law killed him. Brother-in-law killed him.
And guess what?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Nobody else will ever hire Al Golden.
But answer this question, though. Answer this question. As you get older, you're supposed to learn from your mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was Al Golden's second head coaching job. He only did like 2 or 3 years at Temple. This is Mark Richt, 15 years at Georgia, and then coming to Miami and making the same mistakes.
But see, I don't think he made the same mistakes. He never had family members at Georgia.
That's because they wouldn't allow it.
Well, exactly. They wouldn't allow it. And that was the only reason he took the job at Miami is they would allow him to bring his family. Some of the insight that I've got from different people was point blank. Rick would not have taken the job at all unless his son and Thomas Brown and those guys were allowed to come. But what he did for Miami is put us in a good position. The indoor practice facility is huge. The 10-win season gave you at least enough credibility for the next couple of years to let Manny get over the hump. So he did some good here. I was one of the big proponents to get him out of here. I was banging on him as soon as they lost to Wisconsin and Pitt and all those teams. Get his sorry ass out of here. But I'm glad that Manny's here, and I do think the offense in better hands.
I think Al was set up by the Nevin Shapiro. So man, he didn't get a fair shake, man. He didn't get. And I'm not an Al Golden fan. But when you come in under sanctions like that, and you that is nowhere near. When Mark came in, I bet you Mark wouldn't, even if they let him brought his wife and daughter and everybody else to coach, he wouldn't have came in under them conditions.
But here's the thing, Al knew that those sanctions were there.
No, he knew after they hired him.
He knew they were there. All of us knew it was coming out.
Yeah, no, we all knew sanctions were going to come. So the issue isn't that there were sanctions. But to an extent, Alonzo is right, though. I mean, when you have a guy coming in and your first few recruiting classes are under less scholarships and under sanctions, there's not much to turn around the program. And no, Al Golden's not a good head coach for the Hurricanes. He was never a good head coach for the Hurricanes.
No, he's a Penn State guy.
And, that's completely true. But I think that Mark Richt was the best hire for the Hurricanes in that situation. And I
can't deny that.
As John mentioned,
I wanted Cristobal, though.
Cristobal's a good coach, but he hasn't had the same success. I mean, he's really starting to turn around at Oregon, but let's not act like he's been amazing at Oregon to start. And I think what Mark Richt brought you was an indoor practice facility, which we didn't have and we needed. But
that was one of the worst, though. Let's not make it seem like that wasn't big. I'm a season ticket holder. I donated to that before he got hired. So that he
Absolutely,
helped push it through because of the boosters. But I've been donating to that before he got hired. So let's not make it seem like the indoor people put like he did it. He did that. That was already in the works. You know who the best hire at Miami was? Julio Frank. Julio Frank's the best hire because when he got hired, he wrote a letter to the NCAA. He said, "We will not put up with your BS no more. You either gonna give us our sanctions or whatever, or we taking you to court. I'm not putting up with it no more," because he came over from Michigan and he's a football guy. So if my favorite hire in the last 20 years in Miami is Julio Frank, the president, because this is our first president that's a football guy.
Well, it's the first one.
And he got everything turned around.
Paul D was a football guy. Paul D was a football.
Yeah, Paul D was.
Paul D would let them do whatever they wanted, and that's why we won national championships back then.
But I think Julio is doing it differently. He's doing it strategically to where you don't have those same mistakes that we had under Paul. You know what I'm saying? But he did y'all read that letter that he wrote to the NCAA? Oh my God. He cursed them out. I mean, he went in. I was like, so that's what really got that indoor practice facility. Getting rid of Donald Shalala and getting Julio Frank was the best thing to happen. And then he went there and ended up getting the guy that they wanted a few years before that they tried to go after in Mark Richt, that he declined it. He came to Miami because they fired him at Georgia. That's another reason I had bad blood in my mouth. I was like, the only reason he's coming is because they fired him. You know, because they offered him a job, 4 years earlier?
Oh, yeah. Man.
Yeah. He turned it down?
He didn't want any part of it. Me personally, I wanted Butch Davis. I always wanted Butch Davis. I think Butch would have came in with a no-nonsense attitude, and he would have came in as the guy. I did, because I think he would have tried to right the wrong of leaving the program high and dry. Not that you can blame him getting $34 million from the Cleveland Browns. And if
he broke my heart.
He broke all of our hearts.
I don't want my ex-girl back.
Hey, sometimes your ex-girl looks good. Ask Future if he wants Sierra back right now.
I cried, man.
We all want Sierra, though.
Where's my pillow? Where's my pillow? I had my pillow. When he left, I had my pillow. He's not doing this.
All I was saying is there was no social media back then, because I would have embarrassed myself if there was Twitter back when Butch Davis left the program.
I'm going to be honest, and maybe call this rose-colored glasses. I thought Richt was going to do a great job, and I'll sit here right now and say that was the worst idea of my life, because Richt did a lot of good things, but he also did a lot of bad things on offense. I mean, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I knew exactly what he was going to run every single play, because it was the same thing every single time. And it felt like I was living in a simulation to the point where I could call the same plays on Madden, and they wouldn't work there, but he thought it'd work in a real game.
Answer this question then. So how do we blame the offensive line? That's what gets me so mad at people. If I know that you're running exactly the same play, your offensive line don't stand a chance.
You know why it's easy to blame them? It's convenience.
He started to blame it.
I get it, but how many people watch football? And I've been a sideline reporter for the Atlanta Falcons for 8 years. I travel with an NFL team. I sit down and analyze film. How many people watch football that have zero idea what they're watching? They watch the ball and nothing else. So it's easy to say, hey, the snap comes and the quarterback's under pressure. The offensive line is automatically at fault. That's not always the case. When you don't do anything to help your offensive line out, don't get me wrong, talent was an issue. There were guys on the field. Denzel Bulware had no business on the field at Miami. Hayden Mahoney was better taking some of those glamour shots than he was at playing guard. But you have to have an offensive coordinator that helps these dudes. You have to have an offensive coordinator that gets the ball out quick. How about run a screen every now and then? Not the stupid bubble screen off to the side where everybody knows it's coming and you got receivers trying to block corners. Make it easy. And that's why I think, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, that's why I think Dan Enos will succeed at Miami, because he's going to help the guys on the field. You might have a true freshman 18-year-old Zion Nelson starting at left tackle against Florida. You think he's not going to find ways to chip and make it easy for that kid to succeed? That's to the people that don't understand
an actual screen with Jeff Thomas and not a bubble screen every 2 plays, which
The most beautiful play last year that was not completed was the wheel route by Lorenzo Lingard and Nikoski Perry. Mm-hmm. Even though it wasn't completed. Oh my, I was like, sheesh. I mean, it was right there. It was like I think it was like a 40-yard wheel route to the left side, and it barely went off his fingertips. And that's the type of excitement. Like you say, mix it up some. We can't run I formation behind I formation behind the guard first and second down, and then we ran no slant routes. I think the first catch by tight end, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name.
Jordan?
I think
Was Brevin Jordan?
Brevin, the first catch by him was, I think, if I'm not sure, by N'Kosi Perry. He started utilizing him in the middle of the field because we never utilized the middle of the field. We never used him, and it was like, and then it was like, why is everything either deep or out? Why we never utilize the middle of the field? We have talent.
And why is everything a mirror route? And mirror route, again, is both sides are running the exact same routes. I mean, come on. You got to run some shallow drags. We never ran shallow crossing routes for our athletes in space. You want to tell me Mark Pope can't learn to run a shallow drag? You put him in the side. You mean to tell me
he runs those in high school? He ran those in high school. It's a common high school route. And you're telling me that you can't run these plays in a college game where your whole offense is built on speed? You have speed all over the field, and you're trying to run I formation plays. I don't see it. I think the offense is better off playing.
I'm a huge
shotgun formation. It works better for the Hurricanes with the amount of speed you have on the team to execute in shotgun formations and put players like Brevin Jordan in the middle of the field because he's a middle of the field player. He's got
the best tight end we got though is not
dominate the middle. Oh,
yes,
I think he is. Absolutely think he is.
Nah, man. Nah, that kid showed me something different at the spring game.
I like Mallory. I like Mallory.
Will Mallory, you can't teach his size speed. You can't. He is a beast.
But
I keep comparing basketball to football.
I can't take the game off the one spring game because
I can because I'm looking at his size and speed and the way he attacks the football. That's what I'm looking at. And Will Mallory is a beast.
That sounds great. Let me see that on Saturday. How many spring games and Green Tree All-Americans have we
But he was doing good the game he got hurt.
Yeah, he was. But I need to see Brevin Jordan is proven.
Mallory doesn't have the college experience that Jordan did. And Jordan, when you put him on the field, he made plays for you.
He made plays when N'Kosi was in the game.
I mean, I can't argue with that. No one made plays when Rozier was in the game. So.
I keep comparing basketball to football because I'm a big basketball fan, and I look at a guy like Siakam, right? When we talking about developing players, Siakam last year under Toronto could not even get on the floor, and you look at him this year in the finals, he scored like 27 points. You know, the coaching got him to where he was. He was ready to play, but the coaching got him. That's why I look at. I gotta say, I was not a Manny Diaz fan. I did not pull my video down. I kept the video up when I trashed him when we hired him because I want people to know that I trashed him when we hired him. I don't regret trashing him, but I was 100% wrong.
I mean, I like Manny Diaz as a person, and I think what he did with the defense is one of the best coaching jobs I've seen. But the biggest issue for me, and I will be willing to eat crow as soon as it proves to me that I'm wrong, is that he hasn't had a coaching job yet. And
I've eaten a lot of crow.
What is Manny Diaz going to do on Saturdays when we're in a situation where we need to call a timeout or when this needs to happen? Is he going to?
You know what he's going to do? He's going to win the game.
Because I mean,
what he's going to do? He's going to win the game. Hey, I'm a Manny Diaz. I'm the Manny Diaz hype man. I'm the Flavor Flav for Manny Diaz.
So you said all we need to do is get you a big Miami clock, then, and you go at the games.
I don't have the clock, but hey, I don't have the clock, but I got the chain. I got the chain. I don't have the clock, but I got the chain. And I just, it's like talking to you two guys, man. You guys know football, right? So I would trust calling you guys and getting information, and I would trust it. I would take it. No matter what nobody say, I would take it. Like when me and Mark talk, no matter what Mark tells me, I take it. I don't care. I could be on Facebook going in a rant, and Mark could be like, Lonzo, calm down. And I'd be like, okay, Mark. I'm like, okay. And this is on personal issues. This is not football. These be on Mark be like, Lonzo, okay, calm down. That's enough. I'd be like, okay, Mark. And I let it go because I trust him as a person. So I just feel that way about Manny. I just feel like I feel like he has the kids in heart instead of himself. And anytime you do that, you're gonna be successful.
And he is Miami. And I know sometimes
absolutely.
it gets overstated sometimes how important it is to be a Miami guy. But I think in this situation, you think Larry Coker, say what you want, he won a national title. He won 2 national titles. We don't get robbed against Ohio State.
We got robbed. I got my ring for that one, actually.
We all know we got robbed. But he was the right hire at that time. But
I'll argue that, but go ahead.
Randy Shannon was not the right hire.
Oh, not a chance in hell he was the right hire.
Al Golden was
but he was also set up bad too.
He was. Now I agree with that. They were so cheap when it came to Randy Shannon. You had to hire Patrick Nix. You had to go out and hire. I can't even remember his defensive coordinator.
And he wanted to get rid of Nevin Shapiro. He said, "I don't want this guy on my sideline. I don't want this guy on my team. I don't want this guy nowhere near Miami." He was against Nevin Shapiro being there. So was he the wrong hire, or did he get set up to fail?
He got set up to fail. No, he was set up to fail. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
But John, I still think, and I will agree that he got set up to fail, but he's still not a good coach. I mean, UCF last year, I watched a lot of UCF games last year. They had one of the best offenses in college football. They looked good every single week. That defense couldn't stop a high school team.
But you know why?
A Warner team.
You know why? Because he's coaching like Mark Richt's coaching. He's coaching from the 80s. Remember, I'll tell you what. Because you want to say that. Remember, Johnny Manziel made Nick Saban look stupid 2 years in a row. Matter of fact, they changed the rules because of Nick Saban. They changed the rules of the way you substitute and all this because Nick Saban cried so much about we can't get our players in. Because Johnny Manziel looked like the great player that he was, a great college player. And he destroyed Alabama 2 years in a row. So Nick Saban complained about the way they were doing it. So the problem with what's his name is that he is still stuck into that 90s mode.
I mean,
he's running cover 2 man under against spread concepts. He's got linebackers covering slot guys. Where have we seen that before?
Or more importantly, and this is the one game I keep going back to when people try to talk about Randy Shannon to me, was he was playing Memphis in a AAC championship game, and they let Darrell Henderson run the same Wildcat concept every single play, and they never tried to stop it. He ran wild in the first half. They finally did do something in the second half to turn it around, but I mean, if that was a team like LSU, which they played in the Fiesta Bowl, I believe, that game's over. That game's over because you're not going to be able to stop an LSU if they keep running the same concept because they're significantly better than Memphis is. And too many coaches that we've hired in the past have been stuck in that 80s, have been stuck in the 90s. That's the one thing I will say about Enos and Diaz is that hopefully we get some more modern concepts, and it seems like we are going to get modern concepts, which is going to be hell of important for Miami.
And this is why when I wrote the first article I wrote for State of the U was simply what's realistic and what's expected this year. And I had people jump all over me because I've said point blank, at minimum, this is a 10-win ACC championship game appearance team. Anything less than that is a failure in year number 1 for Manny Diaz. I don't want to hear the crap that he hasn't coached before. I don't want to hear the crap that the court. You guys,
I'm not using none of them excuses. I want 12 wins.
You better win 10 minimum, and you better be playing Clemson in the ACC championship game, or you have failed year 1.
And you know what? And I'm gonna echo you on that. That ended it for me when Mark Richt kicked that field goal.
Yeah.
I was halfway back to Georgia by then. I had a Falcons.
I wanted to literally choke him out and then pray for him. when he kicked that field goal against Clemson, Al Golden loss wasn't worse than that one. It wasn't.
It wasn't.
Because we had more. I'm gonna tell you why it wasn't. Because we had more. We had more talent. We had more talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't deny we had more talent. We're supposed to have superior coaching, right? And we got shut out in the ACC championship game, and he kicked the field goal on the 2-yard line, so we didn't get shut out.
But losing 58-0 is one
I
of the most
don't care.
history.
I don't
if you're a Power 5
care.
team, you
That was a
shouldn't
regular
lose
season.
coming to either. What are you?
That was a regular season game.
That our starting quarterback got knocked cuckoo in the first
And
quarter.
this, you got shut out by, you got embarrassed by Dabo and you kicked the field goal.
You know, we lost 58-0. I was on a Falcons flight. We were playing Tennessee that week. So imagine a Saturday. I'm in a suit and tie trying to be professional, and my team is getting mud stomped on national TV. The best thing about that trip
in front of no hope fans. Let's not forget there
was like 11 and a half people there.
I got in a fight. I got a physical altercation in the bar when Clemson was beating us.
We went out that night in Nashville, and I got pretty hammered before the Falcons game the next day. Falcons win the next day, so it's great. I'm flying home, and Al Golden got fired. This will tell you how much Miami means to me and how much people, equate the Canes to me. I'm on a pro football team flight coming back. Al Golden gets fired. I've got executives from the Falcons coming up to me congratulating me. That's how happy they knew. I was like, yes, he's gone.
So what loss do you think was worse? The play?
58-0.
58-0.
I don't think 58-0 was worse because, like I said, we didn't have the talent. Oh, did we have on the team? Did we even have Philadelphia? Was Philadelphia still on the team?
Yes, Rayshon Scott. We had Duke Johnson. We had Brad Kaya. No, Duke was gone. So who?
No, Brad wasn't there neither.
Yes, he was because Brad got unconscious in the first half.
So what did we lose? What did we lose to Clemson in the playoff game? I mean, in the ACC championship. Huh?
38-3.
38-3, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we have more talent, better coaching. That's about like you saying we have Bill Belichick as the coach, or there's no way you lose 38-3, and it wouldn't have been 38-3 if he didn't kick the field goal.
And the 58-0.
I'm sorry. This discussion's amazing. Everybody loves it on the live chat. We got about 120 people on watching, but this is the case each and every time. I got to shut it down. I got to move on to a 9 o'clock. You guys have been amazing. Would love to have you all back.
Anytime.
Miami football.
Hey, Mark,
I
send
hate
them my
that
information,
fever
Mark.
pitch that I'm shutting you guys down, and I'm sure I will get all sorts of heckling in the live chat.
Yeah, you're not going to be liked with this one, Mark. I haven't been live. I got suspended from live almost 2 months ago for showing the Canelo Alvarez fight.
But the 3 points I'm going to make, Zoe, is I think it can be argued either way, 58-0, 38-3. I get your point, Zoe. I definitely get the 58-0. I watched both games, and the 58-0 was just more of just a complete embarrassment, annihilation. The 38-3, those teams, if they play 10 times, Clemson wins probably 8 or 9.
They win
the time by 2 touchdowns. It should be like a 27-17 kind of game, those two teams playing. They were not comparable. Clemson was much better, but Miami should have never lost 38-3.
Oh, I agree. I'm not disagreeing. I just look at the gutless call.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If he would have went for the touchdown, and not failed, I would have went with the 58-0 loss worse than the 38. It was the gutless call.
My other point, though, is that I could easily explain to you why the SEC East is far superior to the Coastal Division of the ACC.
Absolutely. It's not even close.
South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Yeah, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Kentucky had one good year in 35 years.
It's not close. I could lay it out for you team by team. It's not even close.
I know you're smarter than me when it comes to this right here, but I'm biased.
John,
I'm a homer. I'm gonna be a homer. ACC Coastal.
And John, I haven't had you on before, but I would love to argue the 2002 national championship game because I think there are some points to be made there. It's easy to look at the final play of the game or what led to what could have been the final play of the game, and then obviously ended the game.
That's all I see is the final play. Hey, Mark. But now, Mark, you do know, before you hang up, you do know that I do not dislike Ohio State at all. And I've told people that it's the referee. For fans who hate this Ohio State, just put it in your perspective. If Miami would have gotten that call, would you have taken that call? So don't blame
Take
Ohio
the call.
State. Blame the referees.
Yeah, their
Blame the
fans
referee.
their fans are all jackasses. I've been
No, they are. I mean,
I
absolutely.
don't like
There's no way to
anyone
cut
of them.
that.
Actually, no, I've been to Ohio a lot. My wife is from Ohio, and they've actually showed me love a lot. I've been to a game, and I've never had an issue. Gators.
All right.
Or South-
All right. I need to move on. We'll not
All
turn this into an Ohio State either bashing or defense right there. But yes, that game had other calls in it that went other ways. But that was
Thank
the
you,
one that
Mark.
got highlighted. It was not technically pass interference. It should have been called holding about 3 seconds prior to the ball being thrown, actually.